This is the Anything But Banker to Broker podcast. We're going to be talking to some of the industry's best and brightest about the unique pathways they took before stepping into broking and how it set them up for success. Thanks for listening. We've got Alisha Scappin. She's from Allora Finance up in Brisbane. Probably one of the more unique stories I've had on here. She's moved around a bit. She's done a few different things, but I guess when we go through the story, it does all naturally tie up to what she's doing now. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Alisha.
Thank you so much
How
for
you getting
having
on?
me. Really good. Good start to the day. Happy to be here.
That's good. It's nice that you're happy to be here. That's always a good start. What have you been doing? Are you working on much at the moment?
I am. I've got quite a few deals in the pipeline. I've got my team working on a couple of things while we're in here and keeping things moving. So a lot of buying still going on, a lot of refinancing.
How have
Yeah.
you structured your team? So is it you, couple support people, brokers?
Yeah, my first hire was actually a VA offshore. She's still with the business today after a couple of years, which is brilliant. And I now have a broker on my team, and I have an external broker as well who works under my brand based on the south side of Brisbane. So my broker on team is actually based in New South Wales, so we cover a lot of Australia.
Fantastic. And you've obviously built the business up
Yeah.
from the ground up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Started as a single broker, just thinking I was going to do it on my own and maybe with some ambition of having team down the track. But yeah, building team around me so we can all achieve.
Were you viewed as new? You're with AFG, yeah? Was you viewed as?
And we're the
You were the
Astute, yeah.
sorry, yeah. Were you considered like new to industry at the time? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely new to industry at the time.
That's the stories we love, to be honest. You know, because I think, this is the whole purpose of this podcast, right? People coming into the industry with different backgrounds, it doesn't necessarily impact their capability, it positively affects their drive.
Yeah, bring something different to the table, some different life
I
experience.
think so. Let's go back to the start, right? So, as I mentioned before, I always start with what were your mum and dad doing? Like, what's their story? How did you, what was it like growing up? Talk to me about that.
Sure. So mum and dad met in New Zealand, actually. My dad's Italian, my mum's a Kiwi. They moved to Australia a couple of years later. Mum and dad are pretty humble background. They both come from the hospitality industry. Mum diversified and did some different things later on in office management. And I think she worked for a financial planner for a while. But we moved from Queensland to New South Wales quite often as kids, moving around for dad's work mostly. I think his claim to fame is he once served Elton John at a restaurant and he came in a few times and they became quite chummy. So, but yeah, nice humble beginning.
Sounds pretty humble when you've got Elton John coming in.
Silver service in New South Wales, yeah.
So hospo was their background. Nice.
Yeah, largely restaurants and
beautiful
stuff like that.
Did they move into ownership or were they just working there?
They had a crack. They had a crack at owning a little takeaway business on the Gold Coast, actually. It didn't work out so good for them, but they definitely tried their hand at it.
I feel like everyone in them has that thing where they're like, oh, screw it, I might just own a cafe or a restaurant. And I know it sounds like a thing because it's not easy to do at all. And it's a lot of hard work, but it's like, it just seems like a nice thing.
Yeah, seems like a nice
change
dream.
of pace.
A lot of long hours.
Exactly. All right. So growing up, they moved about, obviously. So you were moving around as you were going through school and stuff.
Yeah.
And then,
yep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we moved around a lot, different schools and stuff, particularly primary school. But when I got to high school, I stayed on and did high school and university all on the Gold Coast. It was super important from my parents' perspective. They really encouraged us all to go to uni and get a degree and maybe have a different kind of life path to what they had career-wise.
And I think primary school doesn't really matter, does it? Let's be honest,
Not really. As long as you're turning up and you enjoy it. Yeah.
How many crayons can you eat before the end of the day? That's usually what it's like. But no, I like that. And I think that's a theme that I'm seeing a lot of people doing is their parents are going, do you know what? The hard yakka that we did was good and it's taught us something and we'll give that to you as your education from us to you as parents, but go and do something else because it's not going to set you up.
Yeah.
So you went and studied.
I went and studied. I actually was super passionate in like year 8, year 9, year 10 design, arts, manual arts at school amongst the, mandatory English and maths and stuff. And I ended up getting early entry into a Bachelor of Design, product design specifically. So I found out I'd been accepted into my preferred course in like year 11. So I already knew I was a big planner. I still am a big planner. So I knew what my pathway was going to be like going into uni and had the best time at uni. Like I think I probably wrote, essays, maybe 2 or 3. The design degree is super hands-on, building prototypes and It was fantastic,
I
actually.
think that's where I fell down with mine because I went and did a business degree because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was so much, I know you're doing marketing obviously at the moment, and we'll come to that. Like there was so many different things tacked into it. And I enjoyed doing a bit of everything, but I come out of it learning nothing. So like, I feel like I would have been much better doing something STEM. But if I would have done that, I wouldn't be here in front of you today. So you can't do that with life. So let's go back to when you were in school, right? You obviously settled down on the Goldie. What was the first job that you started doing there?
My very first job at school, I think I was like 13 or 14. I started in hospitality. I just picked up a little cafe job on the weekends. I think I did that all the way through until I was leaving high school. And then I sort of dabbled in retail a bit and then ended up at a jeweler while I was at university. And that's where I sort of really started to do my first design work. I was designing some bespoke jewelry out of good old Pacific Fair at a really beautiful jeweler there and stayed with them for about 4 years.
13. I don't know if that's technically legal, is it? But
I don't quite remember the dates, but no, I don't think it was
that's all
legal.
right. That's why they pay cash in hand. We got
Exactly.
to keep
Yeah.
the economy going one way or another. And then so okay, so you were pretty destined on what you were going to do. That your preferred course. You had that year 11. How old are you there? Because I'm from England. We do it a bit different.
Or like 16, 17.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's good that when you was at that age, you had an idea of what you wanted to be doing.
It's super clear. I can remember being a little kid and like getting all my crayons out and a massive sheet of paper and like designing like ice cream parlors and, kid headspace kind of stuff, but doing design work from really, really little, like maybe 6 or 7.
And
So it was always a
for
passion.
the uninitiated people like me, what does that look like in practice? Yeah,
Designing
like
stuff.
yeah, like are
Yeah.
you, is it bigger picture? Is it inside what's already been built? Like where does it tie into? Yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, it's about problem solving. So I was like, as a kid, I want an ice cream parlor where, I don't know, walk up from the outside. So I'd draw up like the awning and the bench, and there'd be like flavors in the bench or whatever. And that problem solving side of it super appeals to me. And it's probably the thing I like in the home loan side as well, is that you're always looking for solutions and finding something that fits. So it's a weird tie
interesting.
in.
So it's not just like, all right, well, this is what we need to be doing here. It's like there's everything's deliberate and planned out and thought out, right? Like it ties into creating that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when you were doing that, we'll talk about it a little bit more later. But I'm just curious here, like who are you working in tandem with? Like, so you're the designer, you're the one that's actually building the blueprint out effectively, and then you're working in tandem with builders, outs, people like that.
Yeah, those were my little kid dreams. So definitely not working in tandem with anybody. But once I transitioned into like jewelry design, like somebody would come in with a vision and, you'd work with them on a brief and what they're trying to achieve. And that kind of carried through to when I moved into marketing for building products. We'd be looking for, we might have a new product to sell and what was our path to market, who was going to be buying it and what would appeal to them in messaging and how does it solve the problems that they have. So yeah, always in tandem with
Mhm.
somebody. I don't think there's many times in life you can just come up with something and be like, here, take this, and it works for somebody
Yeah.
else. So
That's like
yeah.
the people who design all the apps and products and stuff like that. They're the people who can do that. But yeah.
Yes.
So the job you started doing when he was at uni was ultimately the job that you ended up doing after you left as well. Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic.
So I was doing jewelry design while at uni, and I continued that for about a year afterwards, and that was my transition into kitchen design.
And
Yeah.
then that's what obviously set the pathway for you to get here today.
Yeah, the real built environment stuff, like my passion for real estate and homes and managing budgets and
Yeah,
yeah,
so talk me through the kitchen design stuff. Like you obviously was there foundational knowledge there that you had from the course that you did, your degree coming into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. We did a lot of or in high school, I actually did a lot of, graphic design, so we were drawing up building plans and stuff like that for assignments, so I kinda learnt how to read floor plans and engage with line work
Hmm.
like that. So, yeah, definitely, like, learning how to engage with somebody's brief, what they're trying to achieve, what their goals are, and then articulating that in design, in planning stage, so drawing something up or maybe making a little prototype of something and the ability to actually explain clearly how you're solving their design issues or their, now home loan issues or whatever it might be. So communication, planning, visualization, problem solving.
So you'd be
Yeah.
going into people's homes, like understanding their goals, like consulting with them
Yep.
as well, right? Pushing back on stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, so a typical kitchen design visit would be rocking up at somebody's house with a big drawing pad and a tape measure and, having a really good chat about what do you envisage for the space? Do you want it to feel light and bright or moody, or, how much storage do you need? You might look at the things that they're actually trying to accommodate, like appliances and stuff. Then you'd measure the space out and sketch something roughly. Like if the plan was like this, how does that feel? You might push back on them and be like, this wall, hopefully it's non-structural. Maybe we could remove that and open the space up. So you might propose some new solutions they hadn't thought of. We'd go back, draw it up in the computer, model it up 3D, and they'd come meet with us and we'd present back and kind of talk them through the materials, the layouts, the costs, potential options if there are a few up our sleeve or things we'd recommend.
Was there a certain
Yeah.
client base that you would see as a demographic of people that would pop up more than others when you were doing this? Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny, I always considered myself a fairly mature 20-something-year-old. And so I really connected with people who were in my parents' age group, so my mum's age group. So people who were like 25, 30 years older than me, maybe because they had children of similar age as well. But it was easy for me to hear and understand what they were trying to achieve. And I was starting to develop a passion for cooking, which kind of links into the kitchen space. So I had some of the practical experience of how a kitchen might work, and my parents in hospitality kind of fed into that as well. And that became a little, connection point, and ability to deliver something was a bit more
Nice.
resolved.
Came for the plans, left with the recipes too. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a certain degree of affluence with it, do you think, with these people, or is it just they get to a certain point in their life where they can afford to be doing something that's a bit more bespoke to them?
Yeah, doing something a bit more bespoke is probably where it was at, or they'd bought property that was maybe, 20, 30 years old, maybe had original kitchens in it, sometimes even older than that. Some of the really beautiful orange bench tops that I've ripped out in my time. But yeah, I think things start to fall apart. They get a bit old, and then it's the practicality of how they're using the space has evolved, and open plan becoming a bigger and bigger thing in that era when I was in kitchen designs.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like as I'm renting now, they've always been the ones that have popped up that I've been like, oh. But when I come to buy, they're the ones I'll be like, "Psh, give me that," because I know,
Yeah,
you got to
exactly.
look at it from your perspective, I guess. Like, don't look at what's there, look at the space, look at the opportunity.
Definitely, and it's something I'm still passionate about now, is how you acquire property that maybe needs a little bit of love, and that's not for everybody, but there's such a great opportunity to make your mark and really add value quickly if you want to, whether it's for you to enjoy or to on-sell.
Does that help with your emotional conversations? Obviously broking's a sales role, right? Does that help with those emotional conversations where they're, oh, I'm approved on this place. I can't see the vision of it. You can come in there a little bit and say, do you know what? In my years doing X, Y, Z. Yeah.
Yeah, I think perhaps more so, like whenever somebody sends me a link to a property they're interested in, I can't help but do the professional curiosity, what have you got your eyes on? And sometimes they're beautiful and perfectly resolved, and sometimes they're going to need some love over the course of time. But particularly when somebody engages a conversation with me about, I want to do some renovations. When I do my loan, when I do my lending, I want some cash out to do this or that. My experience in that industry, in the renovation industry, I feel like we do it once, we do it right, from the perspective that I'm encouraging them to, have you already got some preliminary quotes? Have you thought about waterproofing? Like, you may have thought of fixtures and fittings, but what about these other things? And occasionally I get to connect people back to my old network and say, there's a really great kitchen designer around the corner in Brisbane who can, come out and have a chat to you about what might work and give you some quotes. So a bigger picture view to guide them a bit better and access the right kind of equity to do the renos they
So
need.
you obviously would, because of that, naturally, you end up doing a lot in that space where it's equity pools to improve the properties. Sometimes it might be other loans as
Yeah,
well. Yeah. Okay.
super passionate
Yeah.
about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%, right? It's like, I think a lot of the stuff we see put out there gears towards you need to purchase to invest to make, to turn a profit, right? To make money off of it. Whereas, a lot of people are sat in a property that they could, you know, take some money out, put
Make
some
big
money in and improve.
improvements.
Like, and I've said this a few times on here, but I have to say, because it pisses me right off. My property back in England, what I grew up in, it was like an Edwardian one. And we went to get it valued after my nana, my nana passed away, and it went down and down and down because it had this wrong, this wrong. And then, 5 years later, it's been flipped for bloody, equivalent of 2 mil Australian because someone's just come in. The property was played off for 17 years. So we could have done this really, but, you know,
Yeah.
that's life.
The opportunity to do the
Yeah,
work.
that's life,
Yeah.
innit? That's life. And then you moved into the corporate world as well. So big shift from obviously doing what you were doing. What
Yes.
spurred down in you?
It was funny. I had reached a point in kitchen design. where I thought I didn't find it as challenging anymore. I found that some of the solutions or perhaps the trends at that time, I didn't find it challenging. So I was looking at what are my next options from here. And I knew I still liked my product design roots, and I was really passionate about some of the building materials that we had exposure to, like beautiful stone bench tops and different kind of door materials and stuff. So I thought I could be a rep. So I decided to apply to a couple of companies for a building products repping role, and ended up interviewing with CSR, Australia's biggest building products manufacturer, actually in their plasterboard division. So maybe not the most exciting product in the world, but
Very
a
useful.
fundamental element of absolutely fundamental. So interviewed with them, and then I started as a sales rep, was awarded a very big customer, a national customer to take care of, and I did a lot of kilometers driving around to see them everywhere. And what happened, probably a nod to my past, was as I was in their retail environment, I was seeing an opportunity. I was constantly getting asked, how do I solve this problem? How do I solve that problem? And I saw some product design opportunities. And so, being the 25-year-old that I was and squeaky wheel, I decided to design up some products and just send them into corporate. And thankfully, it was very well received. And the national marketing manager, the next time she was in Queensland, she actually came and had a chat to me and said, how would you feel about a role in marketing? And I said, I have no idea. I haven't studied marketing. She's like, we can help you bridge that gap, and I'd love to take you under my wing. Will you move to Sydney?
That's where that
And that
happens.
opened the door for the start of my corporate marketing career. So I learned very quickly on the job in a publicly listed company, with a lot of marketing budget, with a lot of opportunity to make change. And I guess it was my lucky moment. I got afforded the opportunity to have a go.
So I didn't
Yeah.
cover this off. You're living in Brisbane at the time before you moved to Sydney, yeah? Obviously, we spoke about it, but I just wanted to tie those two together. So you're moving down from Brizzy to Sydney. Where were you living in Brisbane? In Brizzy, where did you move to in Sydney?
In Brisbane, I was around the Capalaba area when I was doing kitchen design. And then when I moved to Sydney, I moved into Borkham Hills, which is now a very, very excellent, inner city area. At the time, I thought I was super far away, but moved into a flat down in Sydney, and I have some family there. So I had some family connections already, and very quickly built a friend network.
Balcombe Hills. I'm running a search at the moment. I feel like this has come up. It's almost the Hills District, but it's in between the Hills District and Parramatta. Yeah, am I right in thinking that?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, I think that we would still class it as the Hills
hmm
District to
Away
be
from the
on the nicer side.
yeah. It's like where I live down here. It's you've got Carrum Downs and Carrum Beach, and they're trying to change the name of Carrum Beach so they can inflate the property prices. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
It makes
seems right.
sense, right? It makes so much sense. And yeah, obviously that area has been massively developed, and the whole Hills District at the moment is going through huge development stages,
Huge
huge
change.
change. Yeah, and it's obvious, 45 minutes from Sydney. I think 45 k's out of Sydney, prices are over a mil. So
Yes.
kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
We've got to fill that gap.
That time was actually my first ever interaction with a mortgage broker. So I'd moved there with my partner at the time, and we were living in that flat, and the flat was actually for sale. And so we went, oh, can we buy this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double car garage flat? And went and spoke to a mortgage broker, and it was an interesting experience. I would say now that it was super humbling, and it probably set me up for, unbeknownst to me, how I wanted to run my own business one day, because I felt like it was super intimidating and I didn't get the kind of coaching or support that I needed as a first home buyer to actually help me be confident enough to make the move or look for change. And so in my own business, I'm always think about that version of me. And in my first home buyer conversations, I'm like, what can I tell people that can change the game for them? What opportunities do we have to make it real for them to get into property sooner? Because I tell you what, that unit now is probably notching up the 1 point something's a high end. So it's crazy to think that missed opportunity just for, not knowing who to connect with.
So when you say it was a humbling experience, were you not in a position where you could afford it, or there's levers that you could have pulled on? This person could have set you up for success, but it was just nah, you're not ready yet type conversation.
I think it's the latter. We were very good savers, so we were ready from a deposit perspective. I had a wonderful income, thankfully, transitioning in that corporate role. My partner did too, and they just we didn't the things I know now, like the opportunity to close a credit card or the opportunity to discuss a very small pay increase or whatever it might be, but they just weren't presented to me. And so it was like, come back in a year. and, no levers, no opportunities to look any deeper than that. Yeah, it just feels like a shame. But, as you say, we wouldn't be where we are today without those experiences. So,
I'm guessing you didn't come
yeah.
back in a year, did you?
I did not. I did get a follow-up call, and he was a lovely man, and, it was very kind to me, but I felt at the time like we weren't able to make that step, that we weren't able to take that opportunity, so I felt pretty shy about continuing conversation.
Yeah, I feel like it says a lot about the way you leave a conversation, right? Like, it's something we all have to work on, and I think experience teaches it. Experience on both sides of the conversation, like, how you communicate instead of saying, "Yeah, can you chuck some time in the calendar? I'm super busy at the moment." If you say to someone, "Do you mind if we book some time in because I want to come to that meeting prepared?" Same
Perfect,
thing,
yeah.
but
A little
little
change.
change, right?
Yeah,
Like you're telling people what you're doing is deliberate. Yeah, you're busy, but you're doing it because you want the best time spent for them, not, I'm super busy and that's an example.
absolutely.
All right. So Sydney, how long were you cracking at Sydney for?
We were in Sydney for about, I think, 2 or 3
Hmm.
years, and then my partner needed to transition to Melbourne, so we moved down to Melbourne, and I stayed on with the same company. We were national, so it didn't matter. Did 2 or 3 years in Melbourne. We were in, Essendon, so pretty close to the city as
Spot.
well, or again, at the time, thought I was very far away, but still on the tram line, so it was good.
Yeah, it's a very good spot.
Great spot, great food, great culture, interesting weather, and then life brought us back up to Sydney again about 2 years after
And
that.
you moved back to Balcombe Hills then?
Back to this time we went to Epping, which is just north of North Ryde, so a little closer to the city than we were in the hills, and stayed there for about 2 years as
But
well.
still, Epping today is closer than it was probably when you was there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a 9-kilometer drive for me to work, and it probably took me 40 minutes on a bad day. I often thought maybe I should start running and run to work. Never did, but,
Bike
could have.
would be more less safe maybe, but more efficient. Yeah, but you never catch me on a bike.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
me either.
Just not me. All right, and then obviously came the big job. The one before this,
Yes.
let's call it the last one.
Yep.
How did that come about?
The
The
Harcourts
Harcourts one,
job?
yeah.
Yeah, so when I left Sydney, I was thinking about where do I wanna be, and I wanted to be back in Queensland and closer to family, and so landed on the Gold Coast, that's where family was, and quickly realised that employment and everything was gonna be in Brisbane. So I transitioned up to Brizzy and landed the role with Harcourts in a marketing capacity as well, so carrying that marketing theme, and that was a super interesting experience. It was my first time working for a franchise network, and learnt a lot about all the individual small businesses that form a franchise group, and was lucky to partner with a lot of offices and learn about their businesses and help deliver national campaigns into them.
Yeah, I feel for you because it can be a tough one, but it's also very rewarding as well, right? Because, I've worked in aggregation where there's franchise agreements and models, and, there's a little bit of drift. Well, and some businesses, there's lots of drift between them, right? So, like, it must have been a tough one. But what did that look like on a day to day? So, you were meeting with the businesses, running campaigns that are driving business to the brand or to their specific businesses under the brand?
Uh,
Bit
Bit of
both.
both. So we were making a lot of supporting tools for the offices themselves. I was based in Eagle Farm, so near the airport in Brisbane, and my day to day was there. Every now and again, we'd go interstate and visit a couple of different offices on that trip, or spend some time out in the offices within Brisbane, and just learn about what their challenges were, what they needed from the brand, what value we could deliver, and keep reinforcing the value proposition along the way. But I had 3 brands I looked after. So the Harcourts brand, there was a commercial brand, or there is a commercial brand called NAI Harcourts, and then there was Mortgage Express, which is the Harcourts business's finance arm. And so I was looking at campaigns for all 3 and trying to help them achieve their corporate level goals.
Do you ever get a job working in the mortgage side? Is that how it come around?
It's a funny story. So it came around because I was asked to help them recruit new mortgage brokers. So that works kind of like a franchise model as well. Every broker is their own individual business. And so they were looking to bolster numbers and put some more support around the Harcourts network from a broking perspective. And I sat with the CEO of Mortgage Express, and we wrote a plan for, what's the value proposition? What is it to be a mortgage broker within that group? What kind of opportunities are there? And obviously the Harcourts network was a big part of that. Uh, and so I wrote a recruitment campaign, and we wrote, a plan for delivery, and we did marketing, artwork and everything. And that was in like October, November 2019.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit disillusioned with the marketing space, and I was thinking, okay, now I want some new challenges to solve. I want to see how I can help people more broadly. I was really enjoying the small business side of things, and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do next year. And my partner and I went to New Zealand for the 2019-2020 Christmas New Year period. And while we were there, he said to me, this marketing campaign for mortgage brokers, like, it's fascinating. Would you become a mortgage broker? And I was like, oh, absolutely not. I don't have a finance background. And so, we're touring around New Zealand, going to Milford Sound and Queenstown and everywhere else. And I woke up on like the 4th of January and I was like, maybe I could be a mortgage broker. This is crazy. But I kind of felt like the culmination of all my skills. So coming back into Brisbane after that holiday, I met with the CEO and I said, what would this look like? And we had some early chats and I decided to make a decision really quickly, which is very out of character for me. And so made the decision to commit and handed in my notice. And about 2 weeks later, while I was serving out a long notice period, the world said, hey, here's COVID. Don't come to work. Perhaps, we might need to cut hours for everybody. We don't know what the world's going to look like. And I thought, what have I done? I've just walked away from a corporate salary to start my own business. This feels really scary. So
Mhm.
it was crazy.
Did it end? I mean, obviously you sat here in front of me now, doing what you're doing. So it can't have ended up going that bad. But like, did it end up being a blessing or a curse? Because your hours would have got reduced naturally.
Yeah, hours got reduced as I was tidying up, like finishing my notice period at work, which allowed me to start doing some like foundational business stuff. So I guess my marketing plan and stuff like that, the things that were in my wheelhouse were developed when I was starting. And because of my relationship with Harcourts, because of how Mortgage Express connects to Harcourts, I already had a few offices I was talking to about becoming their broker.
Naturally, right? You've been doing marketing for him for the past,
Yeah, and we had good relationships. So they were like, sure, we'd love to work with you. And yeah, I think it was interesting because real estate sales at the start of COVID, it was like, what's going to happen? And we had a big dip. And so there weren't many people buying property. So there weren't many mortgages to do in the very early part. And then all of a sudden, interest rates started to come down. So there was the blessing. We had a bunch of people come in and say, I need to refinance, my rate's too high. And, we got down to the 1.9s in the market. And there was a lot of opportunity for people then, property started to turn over and there was a lot of buying going on. And it was a very good time for me to start from the perspective I got to speak to so many people so quickly and really refine the discussion and interviewing side quickly.
I think that's one reason where we are fortunate, and I'm fortunate, I think, as a flow-on effect of that, right? Is like, I'm not an economist. I did study it, but I didn't learn anything. Like, we are very lucky to be in an industry that is buoyant and is a lever for the economy because, unfortunately, if the common man stops making money, somebody else makes money, you know what I mean? Like, that's the reality of it. So, like, whichever way the market shifts, realistically, it could sort of benefit us in a way, or it doesn't do too much bad to us.
Yeah, there's always somebody
There's
to
always
help,
someone to help.
whether it's, save them money on what they've got or maybe consolidate some debts or restructure so they can do renovations, stay in the home longer, buy something new, all the first home buyer things going on at the moment. So there's definitely always somebody wanting to transact property.
Correct. You said it in a better way than I did. um, and then, so you working as a subby here, or were you a PTY? Like, what was the structure?
The what,
Was the
sorry?
structure? Were you like a contractor ABN to a business, or were you setting up a full
No.
business under the franchising agreement?
Yeah, the way it gets set up is we set ourselves up as a full business. So I was my proprietary limited from the start. I was just licensed to use the Mortgage Express name and access the value proposition of that group. And that lasted I'm still part of that group. I've just made a decision more recently, about 15 months ago now. I decided to rebrand and just bring Allora Finance to life and take control of some of the tools and marketing suite, which I didn't want to invest my time in what felt comfortable. I wanted to invest my time initially in what was hard. So, learning the broking process, learning how to interview well, giving clients the best experience, nailing business systems. That was my focus for the first like 4 or 5 years. And then it was time to transition and have a bit more control of what the brand looked like and what the messaging was like.
Sounds good. And so you're writing loans in the business yourself now. I like to kind of steer it towards the end of what are your plans like? How are you looking to grow the business? Are you wanting to get off the tools? Are you someone who's going to be on the tools forever like me?
It's a mixed bag. I love working with new brokers. So the two that have joined my business last year are brand new to industry as well. I just, like you, I think that people bring so much diversity and background and knowledge with them, and I think it's really valuable. So I'd like to keep doing that. Naturally, that changes the demand on my time. So I think I would always be writing loans, but I think that might be less and less of my role as I maybe step more into a business owner kind of role, a leading role.
Yeah, I think new to industry is the most rewarding risk you can take as a hiring broker. I find that the businesses that do it are the businesses that are the type of businesses that come on this podcast, not the type of businesses. Sorry about that. The type of businesses that do it are the type of businesses that come on this podcast, not the type of business owners that have come from the bank, because naturally, they've had a bit more of a bit less of a trial by fire, so to speak.
Yeah, different learning curve, and maybe didn't need as much counsel and hand-holding and mentoring as we do when we're newer learning the
So
trade.
you don't you build up that sort of empathy towards it because you know what it's like going through that process yourself.
Definitely.
Look, I just want to say thank you for your time, Alisha. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story. If there was somebody else that you could speak to now who was, heart set on what they wanted to do when they were 16, like what would your advice be to them?
Uh, again, a mixed bag, because I feel like if you know yourself and you know your goals and you're passionate about something, you should follow it, but maybe don't be so set on what the end game's going to look like. There was a time where I thought I was going to be an amazing furniture designer based in Melbourne, and where I've ended up is not that, but equally rewarding, and the culmination of a lot of years of skill and talking to people and learning myself. So yeah, follow your
That's what I
dreams,
was
see
hoping
where
you
it
were
takes
saying,
you.
enjoy the process, not what comes at the end.
Yeah, enjoy
Enjoy
the
the process.
process.
Thank you for your time, Alisha. Chat soon, all right? Cheers,
Thank you.
bye. All right, we did